My husband is upset because I won't give my stepdaughter a cash gift for her high school graduation, even though I did so for my stepson and later for my daughter. Hello, I am a 43-year-old woman with an 18-year-old daughter. Her father left us when I was pregnant with her. I own a small but very successful interior design company in my country, which provides me with a very good living. About 8 years ago, I met my husband, who is now 55. He moved in with me 7 years ago, and we got married in a private ceremony 2 years ago. My husband has 2 children from a previous marriage, a 20-year-old son and a 19-year-old daughter. Initially, both of my stepchildren disliked me and my daughter when our relationship began. When my husband asked them how they would feel about him moving in with me, they both strongly opposed the idea and threatened to stay permanently with their mother if he did so. Despite their objections, my husband moved in with me and told his children that they were welcome to join us if they changed their minds. Eventually, they did come around after seeing our large house with its pool and excellent accommodations. Over time, my stepson gradually warmed up to us, and we are now on great terms. However, the relationship with my stepdaughter has been more challenging. When my stepdaughter was around 14 years old, she was particularly horrible to both me and my daughter. One day, I overheard her making cruel comments about my daughter's weight and appearance directly to her face. I was furious because I had suffered from an eating disorder growing up due to bullying, so I understood the potential harm of her words. Knowing how my daughter must have felt, I told my husband that his daughter was no longer allowed to live in our house. Although my stepdaughter tried to apologize and was visibly upset, I remained firm in my decision. My experience with bullies taught me that forced apologies often did not lead to genuine change, and I was unwilling to take that risk. As a result, my stepdaughter moved permanently to live with her mother. My initial plan was actually to break up with my husband over this issue, but he suggested this arrangement instead. Unfortunately, my stepdaughter continued to bully my daughter at school through friends who attended the same high school as my daughter. I only found out about this about a year ago because my daughter was too embarrassed to tell us and believed she could handle the bullying on her own. Learning this broke my heart, and I felt incredibly guilty that my daughter didn't feel she could confide in me. In our country, university education is free, though students often take out low-interest loans and work part-time jobs to cover living expenses. When my stepson started university, I gave him 100,000 euros so he wouldn't have to work and could focus entirely on his engineering studies. He was very grateful, but expressed concerns about managing such a large sum of money responsibly. Consequently, my husband is handling his finances by making monthly payments to him. I plan to do the same for my daughter when she starts university. My stepdaughter recently graduated with excellent marks and has started medical school this year. She approached her father to inquire about receiving the 100,000 euros similar to what I had given her brother. My husband then came to me with her request. I was taken aback because prior to gifting my stepson the money, I had discussed it with my husband and clarified that I did not intend to do the same for my stepdaughter. At that time, he told me I could make my own decisions regarding my money and that it wasn't unusual, given the close relationship I had with my stepson, who always viewed me as a second mother. However, my husband became very angry when I refused to give the same amount to my stepdaughter. He insisted that she had changed significantly, but that wasn't true at all. Despite not living with us anymore, she continued to make our lives miserable during her visits and even became physically aggressive towards both me and my daughter. If she was acting nice now, it was clearly because of the money involved, and both my husband and I were aware of this. I even pointed out to him that she referred to me as that bitch and had saved my number in her phone under that derogatory name. My husband is now extremely upset and has not spoken to me for over a week. He accuses me of using my money to control their lives and claims he is heartbroken. He suggested that if I don't have enough money for both daughters, I could split my daughter's share between them, especially since my daughter is uncertain about starting college right away. He even implied that my daughter might never get into medical school, unlike his daughter, his exact words. He believes that by giving the money to my stepdaughter, she might become more grateful and develop a closer relationship with my daughter. I am conflicted about what to do. On one hand, I feel no obligation towards my stepdaughter, considering all the pain she has caused my daughter and me. She could still follow the path of her peers by working and taking out loans. She has a bright future ahead of her regardless. On the other hand, there might be some truth in my husband's accusation that I am using my money as a form of reward or punishment. This realization makes me feel ashamed, yet I remain defiant. Ultimately, I believe I should have the right to decide how I spend my money. Update. I decided that it would be best to confront my stepdaughter directly instead of communicating through my husband or via text, so I invited her over for tea. To my surprise, she accepted immediately, which was a first. She showed up last Sunday. I sat her and my husband down and bluntly asked her why she expected any financial help from me when she clearly hated my guts. She got defensive and said that she didn't ask me for help. She had asked her dad. I pointed out that she wasn't foolish and was well aware that her stepbrother received his gift from me, not their father. She retorted saying, "What's the difference? You're married." I explained that the difference was significant. Her stepbrother treated me and my daughter as family, whereas she had always hated us and even bullied her little stepsister in high school. She was shocked to learn that I knew about the high school bullying. I asked her if she would give money to someone who hated her even half as much as she hated me, and why she then expected me to do so. She started crying and apologizing profusely. I told her that I wasn't the one she should be apologizing to. I wished her great success and happiness, but made it clear that I wouldn't be helping her financially with her education. My husband remained silent throughout the entire conversation. After she left, I told him never to compare our daughters again, making my daughter seem inferior just because she wasn't as academically successful as her stepsister. I trust my daughter and want her to be happy. If she chooses to study at a less prestigious school, so be it. Her happiness is the most important thing to me, and I didn't appreciate him dragging her into this situation and comparing her to others when none of it had anything to do with her. He tried to apologize, saying he just wanted to help his daughter. I told him he was free to do that however he wanted, just not at my daughter's expense. Since then, we have been civil to each other, although he has been a bit cold towards me. Hopefully he is just ashamed of this whole episode. I plan to give him some space because, honestly, I need some time myself to think things over. Okay, next interesting story. Am I wrong for ending a 20-year marriage after discovering my wife cheated on me while we were dating? My wife, 44F, and I, 43M, have been married for 20 years. We started dating in high school when I was a junior and she was a senior. For the first 2 years of her college, we were in a long-distance relationship while I finished high school and completed 1 year at community college. Then, we attended college in the same city for a year and have lived together since. We got married the summer after I graduated from college. Our marriage has been pretty great so far, but I initiated a divorce after discovering that she had been sleeping with multiple other men during the 2 years we were long distance. Just after Christmas, we met up with a few of her college friends to catch up, have dinner, and hang out. We talked about various topics, and my wife mentioned that we met in high school, though she didn't specify that we dated. Her old college roommate commented that it was crazy we met in high school, had a few wild years in college, and still ended up together. I played along and remarked that I didn't know if my wife was as wild as I was. The roommate started to tell a story, but my wife cut her off, saying she was uncomfortable with it. Sensing something was off, I clarified that we had actually started dating in high school and were together throughout my wife's entire time in college. All of my wife's friends went silent, making the rest of the dinner quite awkward. On our way out, one of her other roommates pulled me aside and suggested I have an honest conversation about what happened during college. I asked my wife about it on the way home, but she brushed me off. I insisted it was important for her to be honest with me, but again she said it wasn't significant. When we got home, I told her I would stay at my brother's house until she was ready to talk about what happened in college. The next day, she came over and admitted to sleeping with several men during her first 2 years of college. She explained that she didn't consider it a big deal at the time because we were in a long-distance relationship, and she didn't think a high school romance would last. I pressed for more details, and she revealed that she had slept with at least 10 different men during those 2 years. This included at least 3 guys she introduced to me as friends when I visited on weekends, and 1 guy she was still in contact with. I told her that I wanted a divorce and would start the paperwork as soon as possible, which I did on January 2nd. Her family and most of my family have been telling me that I shouldn't throw away our marriage over a few mistakes. However, I firmly believe that cheating on me with multiple men for years is unacceptable, no matter when it happened. The fact that she continued to maintain relationships with these guys right in front of me was an unacceptable amount of disrespect. We have 2 children, aged 17 and 19, and I believe they will understand why I need to end the marriage. Am I wrong for leaving? I feel like I'm going crazy with the number of people telling me to overlook years of infidelity and decades of lies. I can't respond to every question or comment individually, but I wanted to address some common inquiries in detail. The reason for my post is that my wife and a few friends have been suggesting that it's typical to sleep with other people when you're in a long-distance relationship, and they've been implying that I'm unusual for not doing so. I felt like I was being gaslit and wanted an outside perspective. We live in a state where there's a waiting period to finalize a divorce, so I thought it would be wise to seek some insight before making any final decisions. After reading the comments, I noticed that while a few people say it's normal to sleep around during a long-distance relationship, they appear to be in the significant minority. During the 2-year college period, we saw each other a couple of weekends each month. I lived about 3 hours away from her college, so it was a long-distance relationship, but not an extreme one like being across the country. We didn't go months without seeing each other. The 3 guys I met while she was in college were individuals she encountered at parties. The topic of me being her boyfriend didn't really come up, so I'm not sure if these guys knew about our relationship. One of these guys is still in contact with us because he married a mutual friend from college. He's not someone she secretly messages on the side. He's someone we've both talked to regularly for years. I've spoken to him a few times since learning about my wife's actions. He said he didn't know we were dating at the time and has since blocked my wife on social media. Some people have asked how my wife's roommates didn't realize at our wedding that the timelines didn't match up. The main reason is that my wife and I had a very small ceremony with just close family in Texas, followed by a big party with friends back on the East Coast. The typical reception activities, like sharing details about how we met, didn't really happen. Consequently, her roommates didn't realize we had started dating before college. It seems they thought we only dated for the year we were both in the same city and then moved in together. I was open to therapy or some form of attempt to save the marriage, but her insistence that her actions are common and that I'm the one who's out of line is just too much for me. The only time she showed any remorse or even offered to reconcile was when I started filing paperwork. Over the past week, she's reverted to saying she's right and that I'm overreacting. This is why I feel like I'm being gaslit. It seems obvious to me that this is a major issue, but I've got my wife and others telling me it's normal and that I'm overreacting. I'm not getting a paternity test unless my kids want to get one. I have no doubts that they are biologically mine, and no test will change the fact that they are my children. I love them more than anything in the world, and my wife's infidelity won't change that, even if one or both of them is not biologically mine. They've been my kids for 19 years, and they will continue to be my kids until I stop breathing. Final edit. Hey everyone! I've been reading a lot of the responses, but things are getting crazy and increasingly unhinged, so I probably won't be checking in much more. Here are a few more answers to common questions I've seen. First, we were definitely exclusively dating at the time. Dating culture was a lot different 20-ish years ago, and being exclusive was kind of the default for most people. Second, we had a long and difficult discussion before she left for college about continuing the relationship long distance. She specifically wanted to stay together and even joked about her dad coming after me if I started sleeping around with girls at my school. Finally, at my senior prom, she was not able to attend and was very upset when I proposed going with a platonic female friend of mine. As a result, I ended up skipping my prom and hanging out with her instead. While we never explicitly said the word exclusive, I think the above reasons, combined with the general nature of our relationship before she left, are enough to assume exclusivity. Based on some comments here, I followed up with the friend who suggested I have an honest conversation. She told me that 10 guys would be on the low end, and that her biggest concern was that there was apparently at least one pregnancy scare that I didn't know about. I honestly don't think that really changes much. It's less about the number for me, and more about the fact that my wife seems incapable of recognizing why this was wrong or why I feel betrayed. Thank you all for the helpful responses, even those that disagree with me. I will still be open to therapy if she's willing, but I honestly feel like it would be more about us being successful co-parents and finding closure than saving our marriage. Relevant comments. Oop. It would change a lot if I felt that she genuinely wanted to fix this. Throughout our conversation about it, she repeatedly dismissed my feelings and told me I was overreacting to what she called totally normal behavior. She didn't show any regret or consideration for how it hurt me until she realized I was serious about divorce. At that point, she became defensive and angry. She didn't offer to fix things in any meaningful way until I started the paperwork and notified her that I had a lawyer. I think we can navigate being parents effectively. Our kids are older, and I've been putting away money for their college and post-high school expenses for a long time, so many of the custody and monetary issues that typically arise shouldn't be a big problem. Additionally, we're both financially stable and make good money. On his children. I have some doubts about our marriage now, but those are my kids. My son looks like a younger version of me, almost like a clone, and my daughter also bears a significant familial resemblance. To be completely honest, even if a DNA test revealed that there was zero chance they were biologically mine, I would never say a single word about it. I would still love them with every ounce of my being, just as much as I do now. I've hired a lawyer who drafted an intent to separate and sent her a copy via certified mail. As far as I know, this document is not a legal divorce paper filed with the state, but rather a part of the process to ensure she has the opportunity to hire her own lawyer if she wishes to contest it. Actually, going through the divorce will likely take months. I haven't really moved out yet. I've been staying at my brother's place while making arrangements for a more permanent living situation. Regarding the timeline, the dinner happened on the 26th. That night, I went to my brother's house to cool off and give her some time to think about things. We talked several times over the course of 5 days, and she made it clear that she didn't believe she did anything wrong. If she had shown any remorse, regret, or basic consideration for my feelings, I probably would have waited. However, since she didn't, I found a divorce lawyer who had boilerplate intent to separate agreements that we filled out and sent over the same day. Even now, we're obviously not legally divorced, and I'm not even sure if there is a legal concept of separation in my state. Nonetheless, I've made it clear that this is happening and have started the process. Update. First, let's delve into what I learned about the situation during college. After speaking with my wife in counseling sessions and texting with 2 of her former roommates, it became evident that her roommates sensed something was off back then. They mentioned they thought the situation was odd and likely involved cheating. My wife had informed them that we both had some wild experiences in college and had resolved them before getting married, so they never really pressed the issue. The roommate who recently pulled me aside was uncomfortable with the fact that my wife had clearly not discussed these matters with me and felt compelled to inform me. Regarding the introduction to guys she slept with, it appears that was not intentional. One of these men ended up dating and marrying one of our mutual friends from college. He is the one she remained in contact with. In other instances, she initially blamed me during our counseling sessions, but has since acknowledged that it was wrong. When I went to visit her during college, she had planned for us to hang out in her room or spend time alone together. However, I wanted to attend a few parties because in high school and community college, I didn't have many opportunities to go to parties. She didn't expect me to meet these guys, but they happened to be at the parties, and she felt she had no choice but to introduce me. While I still find this unpleasant, it's not as bad as her deliberately parading me in front of them. Most of our discussions in therapy have centered on why I consider this a significant issue and why she initially did not. She initially claimed that none of these men were in serious relationships with her and that they were mostly one-night stands or friends with benefits. Since she didn't view these encounters as romantic relationships, she didn't see the big deal. Her words, not mine. My stance is that we never agreed this was acceptable, and she actively prevented me from doing the same. After exploring this over 2 sessions and my wife consulting some friends, she now agrees that it was a breach of our trust and relationship. This shared understanding has allowed us to discuss the situation more honestly and has shifted us from arguing to having constructive conversations, which is why I'm optimistic about co-parenting. Now, here's why I'm 100% set on divorce. Two significant issues have emerged that make me want to leave the marriage. First, about 10 years ago, we went through a really rough patch and experienced a dead bedroom for about 2 years. My wife had expressed that our sex life was becoming boring, so I attempted to spice things up with role play and some basic sex toys from Spencer's Gifts. Apparently, she had been hung up on some sexual experiences from college, which she is not comfortable talking about, and wanted me to try them. However, when I did, it made her feel awkward and guilty because it reminded her of other men while she was with me. The fact that she claims these experiences were meaningless, but they are still impacting our marriage suggests to me that they meant more than she wants to admit. Second, she admitted that she has been flirting with coworkers on business trips since the pandemic ended. She insists that she has never slept with anybody, but it did escalate to the point of going on a date with one of her male coworkers. That was the absolute deal breaker for me. We have informed our children that we are getting a divorce. We told them it was due to some bad decisions we made in college that we are having trouble moving past. My 19-year-old, who is in college, asked me if I had cheated on my wife while she was away at college. My wife got a little shaken up, but admitted to the kids that she is the one who cheated. We have agreed not to share any additional details with the kids. I reinforced that both of us will be there for the kids and that we are in therapy to ensure we handle this in the best way for the family. I also told the kids that if they wanted to talk to either of us or a therapist about it, I would fully support it. We have started talking to a mediator about how to proceed with the divorce, and unless things change, we should be able to have an amicable divorce. We are both financially stable on our own. We have no major debts, and our kids are older, so custody isn't a major issue. This has been a challenging couple of months for me, but I am doing okay now. I am honestly grateful that my last post gained attention because it both validated some of my feelings and motivated me to go to counseling with my wife. Final update, 3.5 months later. My wife and I have completed our divorce and everything is now official. We managed to have an uncontested, amicable divorce with minimal disagreements. Our lawyers collaborated to create a plan through mediation, and a judge signed off on it a few weeks ago. In the end, the actual divorce process was quite straightforward. The only complication arose with our 17-year-old, who was adamant about living with me due to a strained relationship with my ex-wife that deteriorated as a result of the divorce. Initially, my wife was resistant and considered abandoning the uncontested divorce. However, our son made it clear that she could either allow him a few months to process and rebuild their relationship or force him to live with her until he turns 18, risking never seeing him again. Although I felt this was a bit harsh, my wife ultimately backed down. We proceeded with me having primary physical custody until my son's birthday later this year. I have been encouraging my son to remain open to repairing his relationship with his mother, reminding him that her actions before he was born do not negate the 17 years she cared for and loved him. Fortunately, as the divorce progressed, he has been spending more time with her, and I am optimistic they will work through their issues. In terms of our assets, we split our retirement accounts and investments evenly. Regarding our house, my wife was particularly attached to it, whereas I was not. Consequently, she kept the house and most of the furnishings. She took out a mortgage to pay me half of the equity and half of the estimated replacement value of the furniture. Most of our other belongings were easy to divide. My car, my music gear and her hobbies, clothing, personal effects, etc., or we agreed to sell them and split the proceeds. Things were somewhat easier for us because we had previously documented most of our valuable items and electronics for an insurance rider we added to our home insurance a few years ago. This made the division of assets more straightforward. Overall, while the past few months have been challenging, I am relieved that we managed to handle the divorce amicably and are moving forward with our lives. Things have been going well for me personally. Both of the kids spend most of their time at my place and we are still very close, which was my biggest fear in the divorce. I have a new house that I really love, and I gave in to the midlife crisis urge and traded in my outdated minivan for a Lexus LC 500. I even had a woman at work, not a close coworker, invite me out for a coffee date. While I was upfront with her that I'm not ready to date just yet, she said she would be happy to take a rain check and would be glad to go out with me when I'm ready. I'm honestly thrilled because she's really smart, has a great sense of humor, and our positions at work are far enough apart that we don't really work directly with each other at all. My ex and I are continuing to go through couples counseling together. We have transitioned into having closure on our marriage and ensuring we maintain our relationship enough to be effective co-parents. While these sessions have been great to help me process things and keep everything as healthy and positive as possible given the circumstances, they have also reinforced that divorce was the right option. It's clear from some answers in the sessions that my wife immediately started dating once the divorce process began, so whatever love was there was clearly on the way out already. I'm pretty sure the coworker she was just friends with dropped her off at our recent session. The fact that it doesn't even really make me mad is a good sign that I was also probably done with the marriage. In the end, it will take a long time for me to heal from the betrayal, but I feel like I'm making good progress and can honestly say that the divorce was unquestionably the right decision. I've probably cried more in the last 4 months than I have in the last 20 years, but for the last month or so, I feel genuinely good about myself for the first time in a long while. I'm enjoying having my own life, staying busy getting my 17-year-old ready for college in the fall, and looking forward to a coffee date with a smart, funny woman in a month or two. How do you like these stories? Write your opinion in the comments. Let's get 1,000 subscribers on this channel. Love you.